Ladies and gentlemen, Mollusk here. Sit back and get ready to enjoy another Malifaux encounter. This is my second game against the Dice God, and this is yet another thing I'm loving about Malifaux. It's considerably quicker to play games than it was in Warhammer, and so even though I'm a pretty slow player, I can still fit 2 games in an evening. And this is in fact my opponent's 3rd game this evening, as far as I can tell. And that takes some stamina. Not sure how often I'll be doing these multiple games in an evening thing, as although I love playing the games, and it's great for generating content, it ends up taking ages piecing the games together again afterwards. So bear with me, I'm doing this about a week after I played this game, and things are just a bit hazy. Nevertheless, let's get into it. So the terrain, severe terrain, all these buildings and rocks and stuff are impassable. That's a wall. That's a wall. The walls of this house are impassable, but the inside isn't. And that's about it. We're playing a gaining ground strategy called Extraction, which means every turn after the first, if we have 2 models within 6 inches of this centre token, we will score a point. The person with the most models within 6 inches of the centre token gets to move it 3 inches, after scoring points at the end of the turn. You can see the scheme pool at the start of the video. I revealed Protect Territory and kept Vendetta secret. Basically, my hooded rider has a bone to pick with his mechanical rider. And that's really the thing I most care about this game, is getting those 2 into a scrap, because I predict it's going to be awesome. I can't really remember what my opponent revealed or didn't reveal, because my memory's a bit like a sieve, so I'll say he revealed both Breakthrough and Protect Territory. Let's get things started. I deployed like so, and we have a Teratot, a young Nephilim, the Hooded Rider, and he's packing Retribution's Eye for ignore armor and 1-time ignore defensive trigger goodness. Primordial Magic, Lilith, who's tricked out with Beck and Malifaux, Wicked Mistress, and the Living Blade. Barbarous, no upgrades, he's here because I love him, and his challenge ability is awesome. Another Teratot, another young Nephilim. I don't really have much of a plan. Lilith's going to use her forests to shield us from line of sight, whilst my crew sits around the marker trying to drag it towards me. Blasted this part of the board with scheme markers for Protect Territory, and I'm going to focus on getting my Hooded Rider into his Mechanical Rider. The Dice God's bringing Colette again, and this time we have Willie, and he might be one to keep an eye on in this battle. And we've got Performer, Colette, with Cabaret, Reservoir and Shell Game. Then we have a Mechanical Dove, Cassandra, with Practice Production or whatever it's called, an Ice Dancer, which is another one to watch, and the Mechanical Rider, with Imbued Energies. First turn, there's my hand, not bad. Colette loses the initiative, I make her go first, and the Mechanical Rider pushes up, followed by my young Nephilim. The Ice Dancer moves up, and creates some frosty patches. And I think the deal with these is if I end my movement on them, he can push me in a direction, a certain amount of inches. It then moves a little bit further and drops a scheme marker, because I think it has a power where at the beginning of its turn it can trigger something to either push a certain number of inches or automatically drop a scheme marker after it's finished activating. My other young Nephilim moves up behind the rock, and I'm just putting things in cover so they won't get hurt this turn, and so they'll be in range of the marker, nice and easy next turn. Willie pushes up aggressively, and one of my Teratots joins the young Nephilim by the rock. The Performer moves out to stand by the Ice Dancer, and my Teratot sprints for all it's worth and drops a scheme marker. Let's start protecting that territory. Colette moves up. She then prompts Willie to chuck Dynamite everywhere, but I don't think he manages to cause any damage. Primordial Magic then moves up, perhaps a bit premature. I just want him to hide behind that rock all game, perhaps make someone insignificant, and then be a Protect Territory scheme marker at the end, so I'm putting him up in a position where it can do that. The Dove flies up and maybe makes Willie defensive. Lilith goes, she hides in the house, and casts her Beck and Malifaux forests in front of Willie. I'm so bad with these things. I'm trying to block his line of sight and force him to use an action to get into a position where he can start throwing his Dynamite and make it harder for him to get to the scheme marker, or centre marker rather. But with all Colette's and Cassandra's prompting abilities, he's going to get through that no problem. And I think the way I'm using the forests wrong is I'm putting them too far out from me and too close to my opponent's models, positioning them back around here, and planning for that a little bit more carefully by positioning my models in such a way that when it does go down, they're in better cover. It would dramatically limit my opponent's line of sight options, which would mean he'd have to start coming around here and therefore away from the marker, which is better for me, or expend much more AP from his respective models to come down the centre and get a line of sight on me. And maybe not in this instance, but in general, having the forest markers closer to me makes it easier to get the most out of the Wicked Vines, Wicked Mistress combo by making sure models finish their charge range in the forest and therefore take hazardous terrain damage. So that's what I'm taking away from this game, I think, is that I need to put the illusionary forests close to Lilith to maximise line of sight blocking and synergy with her other abilities. Am I right? I'd be interested to know what you think. Barbarous moves up nice and centrally, declares his challenge and drops a scheme marker. I should have done this earlier in the activation sequence, but oh well. Cassandra moves up by the Performer, and then my Hooded Rider moves up to the building. Riders really only turn into the beat sticks they're supposed to be around turn 3, so I'm playing defensive with him, but mainly I need to ensure the Mechanical Rider is the first thing he hits in order to maximise points from my scheme, and I don't want to expose him too early where something like the Ice Dancer can tie him down. We go into the second turn, and there's my hand. I believe I used my King to defend from one of Willie's Dynamite in the first turn. Mechanical Rider goes first, and throws its spear at the Nephilim, and that's a really good ability for a rider. A range attack makes them so much more useful in the early turns. But that's fine, you can see Little Red Riding Hood has got his eyes on the prize. Luckily the spear only does 2 damage to my Nephilim. So it looks like my Nephilim that was behind the rock has jumped over here to be in range of the scheme marker, and that is an awful move, because all he's done is left himself exposed. He's choking up that gap for any of my other models that might want to move. The obvious choice should have been Barbarous, so that he could activate his challenge and then move up to around here or something, stopping Willie from throwing his Dynamite at the rest of my grouped up crew, and doing what he's supposed to do and holding the line, forcing other models back with his pushes as we drag the scheme marker towards us. But hindsight, eh? Oh, and I think the Nephilim went defensive. Good for it. What a waste of an action. So Willie moves up and lobs Dynamite at it. And despite it's defensive, it takes some weak damage and burns. Okay guys, it's that time in the battle. Prepare to be astounded by some tactical insanity of some truly world-beating proportions. Ask yourselves, where is the best place to put a maniac with a huge trolley full of dynamite? Well, it turns out the answer is not right next to your master and in the middle of your tightly bunched up crew. Who would ever have thought it? Seriously guys, is anyone missing some chromosomes? Because I think I'm packing more than my fair share here. Okay, so Lilith moves out of the building. She tangles shadows Willie, which I think she fails. So she tangle shadows him again, succeeding this time and plonking him right there. And then, because I'm not really sure whether or not I need line of sight on the centre marker to score, I leave the forests here. And, I mean, I've got bigger problems right now. But on the plus side, my top did manage to pounce on Willie and do maybe a damage. The dove can't believe its eyes at what it's just seen, so it's gone for a closer look. Can't tell what that card is, but clearly the dove exploded and gave Willie some bonuses. Don't know if it did any damage to me though, so it might be the Black Joker. Really not sure about that, guys. Trying to piece this together, I must have activated the Primordial Magic next, trying to make Willie insignificant and failing. Willie then hits Lilith, does a severe damage, which I Soulstone, but then the double blast trigger reaches out and explodes the Vomit Worm, because Incorporeal offers no resistance to blast. And that really sucks. The young Nephilim decides to go and make a nuisance of itself. The goal here is to kill his Ice Dancer, if I can, but mainly just to bleed over both of them to weaken them. Looks like Colette's not having that, so she moves up around here and pushes the Ice Dancer away and out of engagement range. It also looks like a Steam Arachnid has been summoned, probably by the Mechanical Rider, which I forgot to mention. Now that the Ice Dancer is out and free, I do not want it messing with my Hooded Rider's plans, so he goes and hides behind that building. Which is probably giving the game away a bit, because even in turn 2, a Hooded Rider should not have much to fear from an Ice Dancer. Probably not quite believing in luck, the Ice Dancer skates for the table edge and drops a scheme marker. My Terratop moves up, and I think I sprint, wasting cards either by cheating or flipping. Basically I move up to here and then decide it's a crap position and move back. Just terrible play. But what I'm trying to do here is that once the young Nephilim falls to the Rider, I want to basically bog things up in this area so that my Hooded Rider can come round and get the charge in. So at this point I find out that when Willie dies he causes a huge explosion. So I decide it's time to get the hell out of range with as many models as I can. And I discover there's a fun little trick you can do with Barbarous. So he moves up, drops a scheme marker, and then uses his challenge. The performer moves to here and goes defensive, so I then activate the Terratop that was standing by Willie, and attempt to disengage, which prompts Willie to make a disengaging strike, but because he's within Barbarous's challenge range, he has to first pass a, Willpower 14 duel, which he fails, so the disengaging strike fails, and my Terratop just walks out of combat. A nice little trick I think I'm going to squirrel away in memory for future use. I think Cassandra then takes some pot shots at Barbarous, but doesn't do anything major. And that ends the turn. We both score points for being having 2 models within 6 inches of the marker, but I have the most, so I start dragging it towards me. Turn 3, another pretty decent hand. This 9 of Masks is pretty important, although I'm missing my Primordial Magic. I win the initiative, and Lilith activates first. She moves the forests to a rather better position, I feel. I then cast Tangle Shadows on the Terratot, cheating in my 9 of Masks, and successfully moving away from Willie. I then get a bit unlucky, and fail to tangle Wicked Vines Cassandra. But at least I draw out some cards, and here's quite a good position for Lilith, because I can be Wicked Vinesing, or Wicked Mistressing, maybe the performer into the woods. I've left myself a bit open, because if Willie was to activate, he could cause me all kinds of trouble here, and maybe a better idea would have been to Wicked Vines him before Tangle Shadowing away. The reason I didn't put Lilith here, where she'd be out of line of sight, was because I feared Willie throwing Dynamite everywhere and getting both her and Barbarous. Cassandra then activates and shoots at Lilith, which I'm happy with, and it looks like I flipped the red joker for Lilith's defense, which is just gravy. To cover my weak spot, Barbarous activates and engages Willie, and I'd like to pretend this was because of, strategy, where I can get Barbarous to push Willie away out of danger to the rest of my crew, but it's really because I'm paranoid that he's going to go after the Hooded Rider and mess up my vendetta. So then, again piecing things together, Willie moves up for some reason, attacks Barbarous for a draw, flips 3 cards, flips the red joker for damage. I certainly soulstone this, but the blast then goes on and does 3 more damage to my young Nephilim, who is now on death's door. Spectacular. The young Nephilim lashes out of the Mechanical Rider, doing no damage, and the Rider strikes back. But despite having the spider there lowering my defense, the young Nephilim survives on its last wound, and very slowly black-blooding this thing to death, although it's annoying that the spider's immune. Seeing that the Nephilim is on its last legs, the Terratop moves back, as I want to draw them closer to the Hooded Rider, and this is just inefficient play. Should have tried to move it further to be an extra body next to the marker, but oh well. The spider activates and kills my Nephilim. Now, if I think I've got this right, Colette goes, and she prompts the rider to throw its spear at the Terratot, nearly killing it. She then prompts Cassandra to start spamming fireballs at Lilith, which she does with glee, hitting, you guessed it, severe damage, blasting the nearby Terratot nearly to death, and I think my Soulstone only heals 1 damage, or resists 1 damage on Lilith, which is not good. Okay, quite how the Mechanical Rider got there, I don't know. Maybe I messed things up a bit and it was the spider that killed the young Nephilim and the horseman didn't activate and now it has, or whatever. But right now it's there engaging my Terratot. My other young Nephilim moves up to engage the Ice Dancer, which I think has just sat there spamming out scheme markers. My Hooded Rider sees its chance and moves out to grab an easy charge on the Mechanical Rider if it kills that Terratot, and coincidentally to give me a 4th model in range of the marker. The performer moves up and goes defensive, and at the end of the turn we both score a point, and because I've got 4 to his 3 models in range, because Willie is also in range now, God, that Tangle Shadows was such a bad idea, I get to move the marker a little bit closer to me. So turn 4, there's my hand. That's not quite what I want, as I'm definitely on the back foot now. So off we go. I get the initiative, Lilith activates first, she moves to get back where it's a little bit safer. It's a bit close to Willie, but I've got a plan to deal with that, and then I Wicked Vines Cassandra a bit, and I think I succeed this time. The Mechanical Rider is too smart for me. It wasn't being engaged by my Terratot, so it can just charge at my young Nephilim and easily kills it. There it goes dying. And then my opponent makes a great move by summoning another one of the spiders. And the way things are arranged here is that I can't charge my Hooded Rider because it has to charge in a straight line and be within 2 inches of his rider. But I will be within 1 inch of the spider, which can then attack, which is it's just dreadful for my Vendetta. And I can't have the spider moving out and engaging me, so I have to move my Terratot to go tie it up and deal with it. The spider then activates and kills the Terratot. And again, this is just the result of really bad positioning. I had to move the Terratot to get it out of the way so the Hooded Rider could go around the back. So yeah, just such a wasteful sacrifice from such bad play. But let's waste no more time. The Hooded Rider double walks around the rock and gets into engagement finally with the Mechanical Rider. Right, sorry guys, not too sure what happened here. He must have moved something, but I can't work out what it is. Maybe it was shooting Cassandra at the Terratot. Who knows? Anyway, in my next activation, I move the Terratot around here and drop a scheme marker, which then prompts Willie to attack Barbarous. And because this guy can't stop hitting Severes, Barbarous goes down to near death, probably using up my last Soulstone, and the resultant double blast vaporizes the Terratot. Just spectacular. I really should have seen that coming. So, Barbarous then attacks. He hits Willie, puts him onto his final 2 wounds or something, knocks him back away 4 inches, out of scoring of the marker in the centre, and Barbarous pushes into contact, still in scoring range of the marker. And then, because I'm stupid and it's incurable, instead of just going defensive with Barbarous, and all but ensuring I get another point, I decide to hit Willie again. And would you believe it, he dies! Exploding and killing Barbarous. Guys, I just can't help it. I don't know what more I can say. So now there's virtually no more Neverborn resistance, and the rest of the girls just push up. Not sure how Cassandra managed to move. Perhaps I didn't Wicked Vines her after all, who knows. So turn 5, that's a pretty healthy hand, and I'm hoping it's just going to be enough for my Hooded Rider to do what it needs to do. And very fortunately for me, I won the initiative. Now unfortunately I didn't get a very good picture of the 2 riders in their epic duel, so let's go back up to this picture. It's turn 5, so the riders are both almost at the height of their powers. My Hooded Rider is doing a minimum damage of 5, whilst the Mechanical Rider is resisting 4 at least. Hoodie hits with his first blow for weak damage, doing 1 to the Mechanical Rider, but it's just a tester blow, as his next action hits a moderate for 6 damage, putting 2 damage through on the Mechanical Rider. But although the first blow of the Vendetta has been struck, the Mechanical Rider still has 4 or 5 wounds remaining. But Hoodie's not done yet. It's Judgment Day. I cheat in the 7 of Masks and pull off the 0 trigger. For whatever reason, I decide to attack the Steam Arachnid first, flip a king, and obliterate the mechanical contraption. Now it's my Rider Nemesis's turn. Steel rings against steel, but the Hooded Rider's strike is true. And I flip the red Joker for damage. Not even the Mechanical Rider's defences can stop that blow, and it gets decapitated in a spray of sparks and gore. And Little Red Riding Hood wins me 3 points for the Vendetta scheme. Just fantastic way to end the game. As a side note, I have Retribution's Eye on the Rider, and although its Ignore Armour doesn't do anything to the damage reduction the Mechanical Rider can do, I could have discarded the card to deny it all defensive triggers, which would have meant I probably could have killed it without even having to activate Judgment Day. But I'd like to keep you guys in suspense, you know. But I'll stop drooling over my rider now, and get back to documenting how my opponent kicked my ass in this game. Pretty sure Colette goes now, prompting her minions through the forest. Lilith activates, hides behind the rock, and now she definitely Wicked Vines is Cassandra. And I'm in a lovely position here to score full points for my Protect Territory scheme. And actually, now I think about it, I think I also Wicked Vines the Performer as well, so I'm feeling quite confident here. Sadly, I don't reckon on the Performer's Siren Call, and Lilith, bless her, doesn't have very strong willpower. So I end up getting dragged through the impassable terrain, and right into the clutches of these mortal harlots. And then, because I've got no more models to activate, it's the Ice Dancer's turn, and she just sits where she's been all day, using whatever ability she has to drop 2 scheme markers right on top of each other, building that stack of scheme markers high. And because I was curious, I double checked that you're allowed to stack markers on top of each other, and this is perfectly legal according to the large rulebook, page 49. Cassandra rounds things off by attacking Lilith and fails to kill her. And there we go, the game ends there. Really good game, really had a great time. I played absolutely terribly, and my opponent played really well. So he got 4 points for the strategy, and because the Ice Dancer's sitting on 4 or 5 scheme markers there, he uses some of them to get full points on Breakthrough, and then the others to combine with Colette's scheme marker to get 4 points on Protect Territory. So he got 10 points. The full whack, well done, whereas I got 2 points for the main strategy and 3 points for my Vendetta scheme. 10 points to 5, a well-deserved drubbing for Lilith. I did lots of things wrong. I think I've mentioned most of them as we went along, so I won't dwell on them here. I learned some useful tricks, especially with Barbarous, and yeah, even so, had a fantastic time. Cannot rate Malifaux highly enough as a game you should try out if you haven't. But that's it, guys. Thanks for watching and take care.